Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. On this channel, we explore how to live wisely and calmly through the lens of Stoicism, not as dry philosophy, but as stories and reflections that speak to everyday life in modern America. If you find these conversations meaningful, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. That way, you won't miss the next lesson in this journey toward finding silent strength in a noisy world. Now let's begin. Picture a typical American morning. The sky is barely light, but the house is already full of sound. The TV blares a 24-hour news cycle, the anchor's voice, fast, urgent, as if every story is the end of the world. Your phone buzzes constantly, emails, social media ads, telling you what you should buy. You open Facebook and instantly you're pulled into a heated political argument. One person shouting in support, another cursing in opposition. The air feels like a courtroom under siege. We live in a country where noise has become the default setting. From the radio in the car to the ads flashing at the airport to the cafe where you hope for a moment of peace. Voices flood in without pause. Sometimes you just want to sit quietly and enjoy your morning coffee, but the table next to you is locked in a furious debate about the election, and you're dragged into a battle that was never yours to fight. A friend of mine, 62 years old, once sighed and told me, "I'm not tired because I'm aging. I'm tired because there's no room left in my mind to breathe." News, debates, opinions, it's like a storm that never ends. He admitted that some days before even getting out of bed, he already felt exhausted. Not from work, but from the dread of another day drowned in noise. Have you ever felt that way? As if your own thoughts no longer belong to you because the world has filled your head with its endless shouting. We know what's happening in the White House, on Wall Street, in the Middle East, in Hollywood. Yet we can't seem to hear what's happening inside ourselves. Researchers say the average American consumes 5 times more information today than in the 1980s. And yet, strangely, we aren't wiser. We're more anxious, more restless, quicker to anger. The mind becomes like a room crammed with too much furniture, crowded, suffocating, with no space left for stillness. I recall a patient, a woman in her 50s, who came to me with dark circles under her eyes from chronic insomnia. She told me, "I wake up at 2 a.m. and instead of going back to sleep, I grab my phone. I scroll the news, the comments, and the more I read, the faster my heart races. By morning, I'm completely drained." She gave a bitter smile. "I guess I'm addicted to noise." But it isn't just her. Our whole society has become addicted to it. Not only to literal sounds, but to the constant stream of information, arguments, and outrage. And yet, if we pause for just a moment, we might see something strange. Most of this noise we can't control. The price of gas, the decisions in Washington, the harsh words of strangers online, none of it is ours to command. So why do we let these things rob us of our inner peace? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, lived in a world no less noisy than ours. Political scheming, wars on the frontier, intrigue within his palace. And still he wrote in Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it." 2,000 years ago, a man facing chaos discovered what we are still forgetting today. Noise only has power when we grant it space in our minds. That same friend of mine, the 62-year-old, once decided to try a day of silence. No TV, no news, no social media. That morning, he simply sat with his coffee on the porch looking at the old oak tree in his yard. At first, he felt restless, like he was missing something urgent. But as the hours passed, his mind began to soften, to settle. He heard the birds again, noticed the wind moving gently through the branches, and realized he hadn't really been present for years. "The world kept turning without me watching the news," he laughed, "and for the first time in a long while I felt light." Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where we finally hear what matters most, ourselves. And yet, in order to find silence within a world so deafening, we need the kind of wisdom and discipline that the Stoics knew so well. When we think about the ancient world, it's tempting to imagine it as quieter, simpler. No smartphones, no 24-hour news, no social media. But don't be fooled. Rome was as noisy, chaotic, and overwhelming as our world is today. Crowded marketplaces, political debates in the Senate, gladiatorial games, roaring in the amphitheater street, gossip, and endless rumors about wars and conspiracies. For a man like Marcus Aurelius, silence was not given. It had to be created. That's why he wrote so often about returning inward, about building what he called an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind untouched by the storms of the outside world. He was surrounded by courtiers whispering, generals demanding, citizens rioting. Yet he found a way to say people seek retreats in the country, by the sea and the mountains. But it is in your own mind that you can retreat at any time. Think about that. 2,000 years ago, Marcus already knew what we are still learning. You can live in the middle of chaos and yet keep a piece of silence inside you. Epictetus, the former slave-turned-philosopher, took this lesson even further. He reminded his students that we do not control the noise of the world, only our response to it. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak, he said. That's not just advice about conversation. It's advice about living. In a world where everyone is shouting, the one who listens quietly becomes powerful. I remember another patient of mine, a retired teacher, who came to me furious after a week of arguments on social media. She had posted an opinion about the local school board, and dozens of strangers piled on, attacking her character, her intelligence, even her family. By the time she sat across from me, her hands were trembling. I can't stop reading their comments, she confessed. I want to reply to each one to prove them wrong. But here's the thing. Replying to every insult is like throwing gasoline on a fire. It doesn't extinguish it. It only makes the flames higher. So I asked her, what if you let silence be your reply? She looked at me puzzled, but slowly she understood. Silence doesn't mean defeat. It means freedom. The freedom to decide what deserves your energy. This is where Seneca, another great Stoic, can guide us. He once warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." How often is it the noise itself that destroys us? The endless replaying of words, the imagined arguments in our heads, the need to have the last word. In reality, most of that noise disappears into the void, forgotten by everyone else. But we keep carrying it, replaying it, letting it poison our peace. Seneca advised his students to measure their words carefully, to speak less but with depth. In ancient Rome, a man who spoke with restraint and wisdom was respected more than one who shouted constantly. The same is true in America today. Think of the people you admire most. Are they the loudest voice in the room, or are they the ones who speak with calm authority, choosing their words like gold coins? Noise thrives on reaction. The moment you reply in anger, the noise wins. But when you remain still, when you retreat into your inner citadel, you remind the world and yourself that you are not a puppet pulled by strings of outrage. You are free. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat quietly with a friend and really listened? No TV in the background, no phone buzzing on the table, no rush to fill the silence with chatter. Just 2 people present. Rare, isn't it? In our culture, silence often feels uncomfortable, but for the Stoics, silence was not emptiness. It was space. Space for reflection, space for listening, space for wisdom to grow. One of my friends, a widower in his late 60s, once told me that after his wife passed away, the silence of the house was unbearable. He turned on the television every morning just to have voices in the room. But over time, he began to experiment. He left the TV off, sat with his grief, and simply breathed. What began as unbearable loneliness turned into something else: solitude. In that solitude, he rediscovered his strength. He began writing letters to his grandchildren, gardening, even painting. He told me I stopped fearing the silence. I started seeing it as a companion. This is what Stoicism offers us: a way to transform noise into silence and silence into power. So how do we live this out? How do we, in the middle of a noisy, divided, restless America, reclaim the quiet that the Stoics knew so well? The answer isn't to escape to a cabin in the woods or to throw away every piece of technology. Life doesn't work that way. The answer is smaller, gentler, but powerful daily moments of silence. In the morning before the TV, before the phone, sit for 5 minutes with nothing but your breath and a cup of coffee. Just 5 minutes. You'll be amazed how quickly the noise of the world tries to claw back in. But hold your ground. That 5 minutes is your inner citadel. At the dinner table, try turning the television off. Let the voices you hear be the ones of your spouse, your children, your grandchildren. Let the silence between sentences breathe. That's where connection grows. When you feel provoked online when someone leaves a cruel comment or an angry post, pause. Imagine Epictetus whispering, "You cannot control what they say. You can only control your reply." And sometimes the most powerful reply is no reply at all. Silence doesn't surrender the fight. Silence keeps the fight from consuming you. And perhaps once a month, choose a day of silence. No news, no social media, no shouting. Go for a walk, read a good book, work with your hands. Notice how the mind begins to settle, how the world feels less like an endless storm and more like a steady tide. Remember, silence is not weakness. It is not avoidance. Silence is power. It is discipline. It is the choice to decide what enters your mind and what does not. Marcus Aurelius faced the roar of an empire. Seneca endured exile and plots. Epictetus rose from slavery to teach emperors. And all of them found strength not in shouting louder than the world, but in going inward into the fortress of stillness. Think about your own life. Where is the noise stealing your peace? Is it the television always running in the background, the endless scrolling of your phone, the urge to join every debate, every outrage, and what would it look like to reclaim even a small piece of silence each day? I'll leave you with this. Imagine if tomorrow you lived just one day in silence. No headlines, no social media, no debates. Just you, the present moment, and the people you love. What would you discover? If this idea speaks to you, I invite you to try it and then share your experience in the comments below. How did it feel? Did the silence frighten you or free you? And if you found value in today's reflection, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. This is only the beginning of our journey into silent strength in a noisy world. Next time we'll talk about the art of holding your tongue, why sometimes the wisest thing you can say is nothing at all. Until then, may you find peace not in the absence of noise, but in the presence of silence.